There is a truth about human beings. We are not only mind, not only body, not only spirit. We are a meeting point of all three. And when one of these aspects is neglected, the others begin to whisper, sometimes scream, until attention is given. When a woman lives without sex, the first thing that happens is not visible to the outside world. It happens quietly inside her body. Muscles grow tense, the breath grows shallow, the nights are restless. Because nature designed the body to flow, and when that flow is blocked, resistance builds up. It is not always pain, but it is a silent heaviness. In the absence of intimacy, her energy does not disappear. Energy never disappears, it only transforms. If it is not expressed through connection, it may become restlessness or an unexplainable sadness. She may turn toward food or endless work or scrolling through distractions. These are substitutes, not solutions. But deeper than the body and mind, the heart speaks. The heart does not crave only physical contact, it longs for presence, for someone to see her fully. Sex is often mistaken as purely physical, but it is also a language of acceptance, of trust, of surrender. When that language is missing, loneliness sharpens, even when surrounded by people. Yet it is not only suffering that is born from this absence. If she learns to direct the same energy upward, transformation becomes possible. The fire that once longed for touch can fuel her art, her discipline, her ambition. The same energy that could create life can also create vision. This is why some women in solitude become unshakable. Still there is a shadow. Suppression without understanding does not bring purity, it brings imbalance. Irritability, anger, sudden mood changes. These are the voices of unmet needs. To ignore them is to invite chaos into the mind. The key, therefore, is not sex itself. The key is awareness. With awareness, she can choose to channel her energy through intimacy or through creativity or through meditation. Without awareness, the absence becomes suffering. With awareness, the absence can become strength. So when a woman lives without sex, this is what happens. She either falls into the weight of suppression, or she rises by transforming that energy. The difference is not in the act itself. It is in her consciousness. When the body speaks in silence, most people are too distracted to hear it. We live in a world where noise is everywhere. Screens, conversations, responsibilities, expectations. But the body does not argue or shout, it whispers. And for a woman living without intimacy, without the experience of touch, without the closeness that comes from sexual union, those whispers slowly become signals that carry meaning far deeper than one might imagine. The first thing that happens is often invisible. She may wake up in the morning and feel a tension in her jaw, a tightness in her chest, or a restless energy in her legs. These are not random sensations. They are the body's way of reminding her that something has been withheld, that a part of the natural flow of human life is being denied. Nature designed the body with cycles, with rhythms, with needs. When these are ignored, the body does not simply forget them. Instead, it stores them, holds on to them, and tries to communicate through subtle discomfort. At first, these signals are gentle. Perhaps sleep feels lighter, or dreams become strange. Perhaps her patience runs thin, or her appetite changes. These are whispers, not yet cries. But over time, if unacknowledged, the whispers grow louder. Energy that should have been released becomes trapped. The body feels restless, but the mind cannot explain why. She may start to feel fatigued without reason or lose motivation in activities that once brought joy. It is as if the body has taken the weight of unexpressed energy and converted it into heaviness. There is another layer. The human body is not simply a machine of flesh and blood. It is also a vessel of energy. Sexual energy is one of the strongest forces in existence. It is the power that can create new life. When this force is not expressed, it does not simply vanish. It remains in the system, moving in circles looking for outlets. Some women unconsciously channel this energy into stress, into irritability, into compulsive habits. Others repress it so deeply that numbness begins to settle in. Either case, the body is speaking, but only those who pause to listen can truly understand what is being said. The silence of the body often manifests in posture, in movement, in the way one breathes. Without intimacy, without the release and harmony that comes from it, a woman may unknowingly hold her shoulders tighter, clench her stomach more, or breathe in shorter patterns. The body locks itself into defense mode, preparing to carry unspoken burdens. And yet these physical patterns are rarely recognized for what they are. Instead, they are often blamed on stress, on diet, or on aging. But if one were to listen deeply, if one were to treat the body as a teacher, the message would be clear. I am carrying something unsaid, something unmet. Silence in the body is not always painful. Sometimes it feels like emptiness, like a hollow space within. A woman may feel emotionally detached, disconnected from her own senses. It is not that she cannot live without sex. She can, and many do. But the lack of intimacy changes the way her body communicates. The warmth of touch, the rhythm of connection, the chemistry that comes with closeness, all of these are natural medicines for the body. Without them, the body finds itself searching, longing for a harmony that is missing. There is also a deeper psychological echo. The body's silence affects the mind. When tension builds in the body, the mind starts to generate reasons for it. Frustration finds its way into thoughts. Small problems feel larger than they are. Doubts about self-worth begin to creep in. Am I not desired? Am I not worthy of closeness? These questions may remain unspoken, yet they hang in the background of the psyche, shaping the way she sees herself. The body's silence becomes the mind's noise. But it is important to understand silence does not always equal suffering. For some women, the absence of sex becomes an opportunity. They learn to listen so deeply to their body that they transform the silence into strength. They practice breathing, meditation, or movement. They allow the energy that would have been expressed physically to rise into creativity, into art, into leadership. For them, the silence of the body becomes a canvas upon which they paint a new identity, one not defined by physical union but by spiritual clarity. The difference lies in awareness. Without awareness, the silence of the body feels like burden. It creates stress, restlessness, or numbness. But with awareness, the same silence becomes a teacher. The body whispers. If you do not release this energy through intimacy, release it through creation. If you do not find harmony in touch, find it in movement. If you do not express it in union, express it in purpose. This is the hidden wisdom of the body. When a woman lives without sex, the body does not punish her. It simply reminds her. It reminds her that she is human, that she is alive, that she carries within her a powerful energy that must flow somehow. If not in one direction, then in another. And so, the silent language of the body becomes the doorway to self-understanding. Every ache, every restless night, every deep sigh is not just discomfort. It is communication. To live in awareness of this communication is to discover freedom. Because then she is no longer controlled by what is missing. She is empowered by what she understands. She is no longer a prisoner of silence, but a translator of it. She learns to listen, and in listening, she learns to live more fully. So the truth is simple but profound. When the body speaks in silence, it is not complaining, it is guiding. And when a woman lives without sex, this is what happens. The body whispers, the body signals, the body reminds her of energy waiting to be transformed. If she listens, she grows. If she ignores, she suffers. The choice lies not in the absence itself, but in the awareness with which she lives that absence. Energy without flow becomes stagnant. This is not only a statement about the body, but about life itself. Everything in existence is in motion. The rivers flow, the wind moves, the sun rises and sets, the seasons change. When movement is disrupted, when flow is stopped, stagnation takes place. Water that does not flow becomes polluted. Air that does not circulate becomes suffocating. The same is true for the human being, especially when it comes to sexual energy. Sexual energy is one of the most powerful forces inside a woman. It is the energy of creation, the energy that holds within it the possibility of new life. It is not just about desire. It is a current, a vibration that fuels vitality. When this current is allowed to flow, whether through intimacy, creativity, or conscious practice, it renews the spirit, lightens the body, and clears the mind. But when this energy is blocked, when it is denied expression, it begins to turn inward, creating stagnation. This stagnation does not appear all at once. It begins softly in ways that can easily be overlooked. Perhaps she feels less motivated to start her day. Perhaps she notices that her laughter does not come as freely as before. Perhaps her emotions feel heavier, as if they move through mud. These are early signs that the flow of energy is being restricted. Like a river that begins to gather debris, the stream of her vitality slows down. The body still holds the same energy, but instead of being expressed, it circles around within her, building pressure. Stagnation can take many forms. Sometimes it shows up as irritability, a sharpness in mood that seems to appear without reason. Sometimes it appears as fatigue and exhaustion not explained by physical effort. Sometimes it takes the form of disinterest, as if life has lost some of its colors. This is the nature of energy without flow. It does not disappear, it transforms into blocks, into walls that prevent her from moving with freedom. The mind too is affected. When energy does not flow, the mind becomes restless. Thoughts repeat themselves, worries increase, small frustrations grow into large ones. The energy that could have been released through connection or redirected into creativity becomes trapped inside feeding patterns of overthinking. A woman may find herself stuck in cycles of self-doubt or over-analysis, wondering why her mind feels so heavy. But in truth, it is not only the mind that is heavy, it is the energy within her that has no outlet. In some cases, stagnation takes the shape of numbness. When energy is blocked for too long, the system begins to shut down its sensitivity in order to cope. She may feel less joy, less excitement, less passion for life. What once inspired her now feels distant. This numbness is the body's defense, a way of protecting itself from the discomfort of blocked energy. But in protecting, it also limits. It dulls her ability to feel deeply, both in pain and in pleasure. And yet the same stagnation holds hidden potential. Because energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed. Even when it feels stuck, it is waiting for direction, waiting for her to guide it. If she learns how to move this energy, the same force that once weighed her down can lift her up. Some women find this path through creativity, painting, writing, dancing, building something with their hands. In these acts, the sexual energy is given form, expressed through beauty and creation rather than intimacy. Others channel it through discipline, through physical movement, through meditation. In these practices, the energy that once turned into frustration becomes fuel for strength and clarity. The danger lies in unconscious stagnation. When a woman does not realize that her restlessness, her heaviness, or her irritability are signs of blocked energy, she may seek escape instead of transformation. She may turn to unhealthy distractions, to addictions, to patterns that only deepen the blockage. This is like trying to cover polluted water with flowers. It may look better for a moment, but the water underneath remains unclean. Awareness is the key. With awareness, stagnation is not an enemy, it is a signal, a reminder that flow must be restored. It is also important to see that sexual energy is not separate from other energies in life. It is deeply connected to creativity, to emotional openness, to vitality. When sexual energy flows freely, a woman feels more alive in all areas of her life. Her thoughts are clearer, her emotions more balanced, her body more vibrant. But when it is blocked, the stagnation spreads into all areas. Relationships feel heavy, work feels draining, and even small tasks seem overwhelming. This is the ripple effect of energy without flow. The lesson then is simple but profound. Energy is meant to move. If it is not expressed in one form, it must be expressed in another. Just as the river finds new paths when blocked, just as the wind finds cracks to move through, a woman too must find ways to let her energy flow, whether through intimacy with another, intimacy with herself, or intimacy with her creative spirit. She must open channels for release and renewal. When she learns to do this, stagnation transforms into strength. The same energy that once created heaviness now becomes fuel for growth. The river once blocked breaks through the stones and rushes with even greater force. The air, once trapped, refreshes the space with new life. So it is with her energy. Once it flows again, her spirit shines brighter, her body feels lighter, and her mind becomes calm. Thus, when a woman lives without sex, what happens is not only physical absence, but energetic imbalance. Energy that is not allowed to move will stagnate. But if she chooses awareness, if she learns to guide her energy into new channels, then absence does not weaken her. It strengthens her. The difference lies not in the energy itself, but in her ability to let it flow. The mind is a master of invention. When something essential is missing, it does not simply accept the absence, it creates substitutes. This is part of human nature. The mind does not tolerate emptiness. It tries to fill the gaps, to cover the void, to distract from what is lacking. And when a woman lives without sex, without intimacy, without the physical and emotional release that comes with it, the mind begins to create its own replacements. These substitutes may comfort her for a moment, but they are never the real thing. They are like shadows of fulfillment, visible yet untouchable. At first, the substitution may seem harmless. She may throw herself into work, becoming more productive, more focused, more ambitious. Work becomes the outlet for her energy, the place where she pours her passion. On the surface, this looks positive. Success, recognition, progress, these are the fruits of her effort. But deep down, the mind is not only working for achievement, it is working to silence a hunger. The busier she stays, the less time she has to feel the emptiness that lies in her heart and body. Yet, no matter how much she achieves, there is a quiet restlessness that remains because work cannot replace intimacy. For others, the substitute is food. The act of eating becomes more than nourishment. It becomes comfort, distraction, even companionship. Sweetness on the tongue mimics sweetness in the soul. The fullness of the stomach tries to mimic the fullness of connection. But once the taste fades, once the meal is over, the void reappears. And sometimes, the guilt of overindulgence adds another layer of weight to the very emptiness she was trying to cover. The mind succeeds in distracting for a moment, but the deeper need still lingers. Another common substitute is distraction through entertainment, endless scrolling, watching, reading, anything that keeps her mind occupied. Here the mind plays its cleverest trick. It convinces her that she is connected, when in reality she is only consuming. Social media gives the illusion of closeness, of being part of a larger community, of being seen. But when the screen turns off, the silence returns. What is missing is not information, not entertainment, not images. It is presence. It is the touch, the voice, the warmth of another being who shares the same space. The mind also builds emotional walls as a form of substitution. Instead of longing for connection, it convinces her that she does not need it. I am fine alone. I don't care. I am stronger this way. These thoughts may feel empowering, and in truth, solitude can indeed be a path of strength. But often, the wall is not strength. It is defense. It is the mind's way of protecting her from disappointment, from vulnerability, from the risk of rejection. By convincing her that she does not need closeness, the mind shields her from pain. Yet in doing so, it also keeps her from experiencing the joy that intimacy can bring. Sometimes, the substitutes become even more subtle. A woman may seek validation in small ways, through compliments, attention, or admiration. She may enjoy being noticed, not because she is vain, but because it temporarily soothes the quiet ache of being untouched, unseen in her truest form. But these moments of validation are fleeting. They do not fill the deeper hunger for genuine intimacy, where she is not only noticed, but deeply known. There is also a more dangerous path the mind can take, turning substitutes into addictions. Alcohol, drugs, compulsive shopping, or endless chasing of pleasure. These are attempts to simulate the release that intimacy would have provided. The energy that is meant to flow naturally through connection is instead forced through artificial channels. And while these channels may bring temporary relief, they also drain her, leaving her weaker, more disconnected, more lost. But the mind is not the enemy. Its creation of substitutes is not a mistake. It is a survival mechanism. It tries to protect her from the rawness of emptiness. It tries to give her something to hold on to, even if it is only a shadow. The problem arises when she forgets that these are substitutes. When she starts believing that work, food, distractions, or emotional walls are enough, she loses touch with the deeper truth of her needs. She forgets that beneath the substitutes lies a longing for intimacy, for presence, for the flow of energy that only connection, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, can bring. The path forward is awareness. When she becomes aware of the substitutes her mind is creating, she begins to see them for what they are: temporary coverings. She can still engage in work, in food, in entertainment, but with consciousness. She can remind herself, this is not the fullness I seek. This is only a momentary comfort. And with this awareness, she gains the power to choose healthier outlets, to transform the restless energy into creativity, movement, or meditation rather than falling into unconscious patterns. Awareness also allows her to break the illusion of self-sufficiency that the mind constructs. Yes, she may be strong on her own. Yes, she may survive without intimacy. But strength does not mean denial of need. True strength is the courage to admit vulnerability, to recognize that human beings are wired for connection. The substitutes will always fall short because they lack the essence of presence, the meeting of energies, the shared heartbeat, the unspoken understanding between two beings. And yet, there is beauty even in the substitutes, because sometimes through work, through art, through solitude, a woman discovers parts of herself she might not have found otherwise. The mind's attempt to cover the void can lead her to create masterpieces, to achieve greatness, to master herself. In this way, the substitutes can become stepping stones as long as she does not mistake them for the destination. They can be tools, but not replacements. So when the mind creates substitutes, this is what happens. The emptiness is hidden, but not healed. The hunger is distracted, but not fed. The flow is delayed, but not destroyed. And if she listens closely, if she allows herself to see through the illusions her mind creates, she will realize that the substitutes are messages pointing her back to the truth. The truth that what she seeks is not in shadows, not in distractions, but in genuine flow, whether through intimacy with another or intimacy with her own soul. The mind will always create substitutes, but the heart knows the difference. And when she listens to the heart, she begins to move beyond substitutes into authenticity. This is where the real transformation begins. The heart craves connection. This is one of the deepest truths of human life, and it is something that cannot be hidden or denied. The heart is not satisfied with survival, not content with simply existing, not fulfilled by achievements alone. It longs for something that cannot be measured in material terms. It longs for closeness, for intimacy, for the warmth of another presence that says, without words, I see you, I feel you, I am here with you. When a woman lives without sex, what she misses is not just the physical act itself. What she misses most deeply is the sense of connection that intimacy brings. Sex, when seen only as a physical exchange, is shallow, but when understood in its fullness, it is a language of the heart. It is a way of being seen without masks, of being accepted without conditions, of being touched not only on the body but in the soul. The absence of this language leaves a silence in the heart. The heart, unlike the mind, does not create substitutes as cleverly. It does not invent distractions. It does not reason or calculate. The heart simply feels. When connection is absent, the heart feels lonely. When presence is missing, the heart feels hollow. Even if the woman surrounds herself with friends, with work, with activities, there is still a quiet ache inside her chest that does not go away. It is the longing for intimacy, for someone to be close enough that her walls can fall, close enough that her breath can soften, close enough that she can rest in the safety of being known. This craving is not weakness. It is not dependency. It is the nature of the heart. Just as the lungs are made for breath and the stomach for nourishment, the heart is made for connection. It is its nourishment, its breath, its lifeblood. Without it, the heart becomes weary. It may grow guarded, placing armor around itself to hide the ache. It may grow distant, pretending not to care. But inside, the longing remains. The more it is denied, the more it shapes her inner world in silence. In the absence of connection, the heart can become restless. This restlessness is often misunderstood. It may show up as irritation, as sadness, as mood swings. But at its core, it is not anger. It is yearning. It is the heart reaching out, hoping to be met, hoping to be understood. And when this yearning is ignored for too long, the heart can harden. It can decide that it is safer not to feel at all. It builds walls so high that even if love arrives, it cannot enter. This is one of the deepest costs of living without intimacy. Not just loneliness, but the loss of openness. Yet, the craving of the heart is also a gift. It reminds her of what is truly important. It keeps her human, soft and alive. The longing for connection is not just about another person. It is also about herself. When she craves closeness, she is also craving to reconnect with her own truth, her own softness, her own ability to love. Intimacy with another mirrors intimacy with the self. When she feels unseen, it often means she has stopped seeing herself. When she feels untouched, it often means she has stopped touching her own depths with kindness. The absence of connection pushes her to look within, to ask, am I present with myself? Do I know my own heart? Can I sit with my own silence? There is also a spiritual dimension to this craving. The heart longs not only for human connection, but for connection with something greater, with nature, with existence, with the divine. When a woman feels the ache of absence, she may turn inward and discover a vast inner space waiting for her. She may realize that the connection she longs for is not limited to another body or another presence, but extends to life itself. In this way, the absence of sex can sometimes awaken her to a deeper intimacy, the intimacy of belonging to the universe, of being held by existence itself. But still, the heart craves the tangible. It craves the warmth of a hand, the sound of a breath, the nearness of another body that says, you are not alone. This is why, even when she is strong and independent, even when she achieves and creates and thrives, there is a quiet part of her that still longs for intimacy, not because she is incomplete without it, but because connection is part of her wholeness. The danger comes when the craving is ignored or denied, when she tells herself she does not need anyone, when she numbs the heart's longing with substitutes, when she buries her vulnerability under layers of strength. This may protect her for a while, but it also keeps her from the depth of life. Because life's deepest joy does not come from achievements, from possessions, or from distractions. It comes from connection, the shared laugh, the shared silence, the shared breath of intimacy. So when a woman lives without sex, the heart speaks. It whispers through loneliness, through restlessness, through longing. It asks to be held, to be touched, to be met. If she listens, she will see that this craving is not a weakness, but a compass. It points her back to what is real, to what matters most. And even if she cannot fulfill this craving in the moment, even if she lives in solitude, she can honor it by staying open. She can keep her heart soft, her longing alive, her capacity to love untouched by bitterness. Because one day, whether through another person or through her own deeper awakening, the heart will find connection again. And in that moment, all the waiting, all the silence, all the longing will reveal its purpose. It was preparing her, shaping her, deepening her capacity to love fully. The craving of the heart is the path to its fulfillment. The spirit seeks balance. This is a law of life that cannot be escaped. Every part of existence, from the smallest atom to the vastness of the cosmos, moves in harmony between opposites, day and night, rest and activity, silence and sound, giving and receiving. When one side is denied, imbalance begins, and imbalance always brings suffering. In the life of a woman, sexual intimacy is not just a physical act or an emotional bond, it is also a dimension of balance for her spirit. It connects her body, mind, and soul into a rhythm that nourishes her sense of wholeness. When this rhythm is broken, when intimacy is withheld or denied, the spirit begins to search for balance in other ways. Sometimes this search is subtle. A woman may not even notice it at first. She may feel a slight sense of incompleteness, as though something is missing in her inner world. She may sense a quiet disconnection from herself, as if she is living but not fully alive. This is the spirit whispering that one of its sources of harmony is absent. Just as the body craves nourishment and the heart craves connection, the spirit craves balance. Without it, she may feel pulled in many directions, scattered, unsettled, unable to find peace no matter how much she accomplishes or acquires. The imbalance of the spirit often appears as inner conflict. On the outside, she may appear strong, composed, even thriving. But inside, there is a quiet war. A part of her that longs for closeness and another part that tells her to deny it. One side craves intimacy, while the other side fears vulnerability. The spirit suffers in this conflict because harmony is broken. To the spirit, denial is not balance, suppression is not strength. True balance comes not from ignoring needs, but from understanding and transforming them. The absence of sex can create imbalance if it is forced upon her, if it is lived in denial, if it is filled with resistance. In such cases, the spirit feels weighed down like a tree trying to grow with one of its roots cut off. Energy that was meant to flow freely becomes stuck. Emotions that were meant to be expressed become locked inside. She may feel tension without knowing its cause, heaviness without a clear reason. This is not the punishment of the body, it is the spirit reminding her that balance has been lost. But the same absence, if approached with awareness, can also lead her to a different kind of balance. Some women, in periods of celibacy, discover a deep stillness within themselves. They redirect the energy that would have been spent in intimacy into spiritual practice, into art, into discipline. They do not suppress their energy. They transform it. In this way, what could have been imbalance becomes balance of another kind. Instead of falling into frustration, they rise into clarity. Instead of being pulled into loneliness, they channel their energy into purpose. This is the wisdom of the spirit. It always seeks balance, even if it must change its form. The danger lies in unconscious denial. When a woman lives without sex but refuses to acknowledge the impact it has on her, she creates a fracture between her outer life and her inner life. Outwardly, she may say, "I don't need it, I don't care." But inwardly, her body, her emotions, her energy whisper otherwise. This split creates tension because the spirit cannot rest in dishonesty. It seeks wholeness, and wholeness requires truth. To say, "I do not need connection," while secretly longing for it, is to live in contradiction, and contradiction always breeds imbalance. True balance begins with honesty. It begins when she allows herself to admit her longings without shame, without judgment. It does not mean she must act on them immediately. It does not mean she is weak for having them. It simply means she is human. And to be human is to carry needs, desires, and longings. The spirit does not ask her to deny them. It asks her to hold them with awareness, to transform them with wisdom, to give them a healthy outlet so that harmony is maintained. The spirit also seeks balance between solitude and union. A woman who depends entirely on another for her sense of wholeness loses balance because she forgets the richness of her own soul. But a woman who denies her need for closeness also loses balance because she forgets the natural rhythm of connection that her heart and body were designed for. Balance is not in choosing one and rejecting the other. It is in finding harmony between the two. To know herself deeply in solitude and to share herself openly in connection. To be whole alone and yet willing to unite with another. In the absence of sex, the spirit may push her toward one of these lessons. If she leans too much on solitude, she may be reminded of the beauty of vulnerability. If she leans too much on longing for union, she may be reminded of the strength of being whole within herself. The absence becomes a mirror, reflecting back to her where her balance is missing. And if she listens, she can use this time to grow stronger, wiser, and more harmonious. But when she resists, when she tries to silence the whispers of her spirit, imbalance deepens. She may feel irritable, restless, or numb. She may fill her days with endless activity to avoid sitting in silence with herself. She may create emotional walls to avoid admitting her needs. These are signs that the spirit is out of balance, signs that she is living in resistance rather than flow. To restore balance, she does not always need sex itself. What she needs is energy to move, love to flow, truth to be acknowledged. This can happen through creativity, through meditation, through deep friendships, through honest expression of emotions. The spirit is wise. It accepts many forms of nourishment as long as they are authentic. But what it cannot accept is suppression, pretense, or denial. Because these create the deepest imbalance of all, the split between who she truly is and who she pretends to be. So when a woman lives without sex, her spirit begins to seek balance. It whispers in her restlessness. It nudges her in her longing. It speaks through her moods and silences. If she listens, she can transform absence into strength. If she resists, she falls into imbalance. The difference is not in the absence itself, but in the way she meets it. The spirit is always seeking harmony, and it will not stop until it is found. To honor this search is to live in truth, to live in balance, and to live in peace. Strength is born in transformation. This truth is as old as life itself. Nothing in nature becomes strong by remaining the same. A seed must break open to grow into a tree. A river must carve its way through stone to find its path to the sea. Fire must burn in order to release its light. In the same way, when a woman lives without sex, the energy within her does not simply vanish. It builds, it stirs, it waits. And if she learns how to transform it, that energy becomes the foundation of strength. Sexual energy is one of the most powerful forces she carries. It is the energy that can create life, the energy that fuels passion, intimacy, and joy. When it is expressed through connection, it brings release and harmony. But when connection is absent, that energy does not disappear. It turns inward. If she does not understand it, it may become frustration, tension, or sadness. If she suppresses it, it may turn into numbness, a dulling of her spirit. But if she chooses to work with it consciously, if she learns to redirect and transform it, the very energy that once created longing now becomes strength, discipline, creativity, and clarity. Transformation is not automatic. It requires awareness. It requires practice. It requires patience. When she feels the restlessness of unexpressed energy, she has a choice to allow it to control her through frustration or to channel it into growth. Many women, knowingly or unknowingly, take this path of transformation. Some pour their energy into creativity, writing, painting, dancing, singing. Their art becomes infused with the same passion that intimacy might have expressed. Others turn to physical movement, training, running, yoga. Their bodies absorb the restless current and shape it into strength, endurance, and vitality. In both cases, the energy is not lost, it is reborn in a different form. The transformation can also be spiritual. A woman who practices meditation, breathwork, or contemplation learns to guide the energy upward, turning desire into awareness, turning longing into presence. Instead of being consumed by the absence of intimacy, she becomes more deeply connected to herself, to life, to existence. The same fire that might have burned her with frustration now becomes the flame of awakening. In solitude, she discovers a strength that does not depend on anyone else, a strength that rises from her ability to face her own depths and find balance within them. But this transformation is not easy. It demands that she face her own emotions honestly. She must acknowledge the ache of longing without shame. She must admit her vulnerability without judgment. She must resist the temptation to escape into distractions or substitutes. Strength is not born from avoidance. It is born from facing reality and working with it. The woman who transforms her energy does not deny her need for connection. Instead, she learns to guide that need into higher expressions until the time comes when intimacy is possible again. Through this process, she begins to realize that strength is not the absence of desire, but the mastery of it. To deny desire entirely is suppression, and suppression always leads to imbalance. But to transform desire into creation, into growth, into awareness, that is mastery. This mastery becomes visible in her presence. She carries herself with quiet power, with a depth that others can feel. Her eyes shine with clarity. Her movements are steady. Her words carry weight. She is no longer restless because she has learned to use her restlessness as fuel. Transformation also teaches her resilience. Life does not always give what the heart desires. There are times of union and times of solitude, times of abundance and times of absence. A woman who depends only on circumstances for her balance will suffer when life withholds what she craves. But a woman who knows how to transform absence into growth cannot be broken by solitude. She may still feel the ache of longing, but she is not defeated by it. She has learned to turn her wounds into wisdom, her hunger into purpose, her silence into strength. There is also a hidden gift in transformation, creativity. Many of the world's greatest works of art, literature, and discovery were born from longing, from absence, from energy that had no direct outlet. The intensity of sexual energy, when transformed, becomes a source of innovation. It awakens imagination, pushes boundaries, and gives birth to visions that might never have arisen in comfort. A woman who learns to channel her energy may find herself creating beauty, leading with power, or exploring depths of her soul she never knew existed. Yet transformation is not about rejecting intimacy forever. It is about preparing her to meet it with greater strength when it comes. A woman who has learned to transform her energy is not dependent on intimacy, but she is also not close to it. When the moment of connection arrives, she enters it with more presence, more depth, more awareness. Her strength does not make her hard, it makes her whole. She knows how to give without losing herself, how to receive without clinging, how to share without fear. So strength, in this context, is not simply physical endurance or emotional toughness. It is the strength of transformation, the ability to take what could have been frustration and turn it into fire, what could have been suffering and turn it into wisdom, what could have been absence and turn it into abundance of another kind. This strength cannot be given, it must be cultivated. It is the result of patience, awareness, and the willingness to face herself honestly. When a woman lives without sex, she stands at a crossroads. She can allow the absence to become heaviness, or she can choose to transform it into power. She can fall into suppression, or she can rise into creation. She can remain restless, or she can become resilient. The path she chooses determines whether her solitude becomes her prison or her training ground. Strength is not born from what she avoids. It is born from what she transforms. And in this transformation lies her true freedom, her true beauty, her true power. Because no absence, no circumstance, no silence can take away the strength she builds when she learns to turn her longing into light. The shadow emerges when light is blocked. This is a truth both in nature and in the human soul. When something as powerful as sexual energy is repressed, denied, or left unacknowledged, it does not vanish, it retreats into the shadow. And in that shadow, it begins to take forms that are not always gentle, not always kind. A woman who lives without sex, without the flow of intimacy, may begin to meet parts of herself she never expected. The moods, the irritations, the sharp edges, the sudden waves of sadness. These are not random, they are the shadow emerging. The shadow is the part of the self that does not have permission to live openly. It carries the desires we deny, the feelings we suppress, the truths we fear to admit. When intimacy is absent, the shadow grows louder because a fundamental part of human expression is being silenced. A woman may feel tension without knowing why, anger without a clear cause, or deep sadness without understanding its origin. These emotions are not failures of character, they are expressions of the shadow, unmet needs taking different forms. At times, the shadow emerges as irritability. Little things begin to feel heavier than they are. A small mistake at work feels unbearable. A minor disagreement becomes a storm. This intensity is not because the events are so large, but because the energy trapped inside her is searching for release. What could have flowed in closeness, in touch, in surrender, instead bursts out in frustration. The shadow does not choose carefully. It uses whatever outlet it finds. Other times, the shadow appears as withdrawal. A woman may become distant, emotionally cold, detached from the people around her. This is not because she does not care, but because she feels the weight of unmet needs and protects herself by retreating inward. The shadow whispers, it is safer not to feel, safer not to hope, safer not to want. But in protecting, it also isolates, creating a cycle of loneliness that deepens the very absence she is trying to endure. The shadow can also show itself in subtle self-destructive habits. Overeating, overspending, overworking, these are not simply choices of pleasure or survival. They are ways of coping with energy that has no conscious outlet. The shadow says, if I cannot express myself directly, I will express myself indirectly, even if it harms you. It is not evil, it is simply desperate. It is the raw energy of desire wearing a mask. Sometimes, the shadow takes the form of numbness. Instead of frustration or anger, a woman may feel nothing at all. She may stop caring about things that once brought joy. She may feel as if life has lost its colors. This numbness is not the absence of the shadow, but its silence, a silence heavy with suppressed energy. To feel nothing is often the deepest expression of the shadow because it means the heart has decided to protect itself by closing its doors entirely. Yet the shadow is not the enemy. It is a messenger. Its irritations, its sadness, its numbness, all are signals pointing to the truth that something within her longs for attention. When intimacy is missing, when connection is absent, the shadow emerges to say, do not forget me. Do not bury me. I am still here, waiting. If she listens, if she dares to look at her shadow with honesty, she can discover not only her pain, but also her power. The shadow holds tremendous energy. The very fire that can burn her through frustration is the same fire that can fuel her creativity, her ambition, her strength. But to access this, she must be willing to face it without judgment. To say, yes, I feel lonely. Yes, I feel restless. Yes, I feel angry. These admissions are not weakness, they are the first steps of transformation. Because what is brought to light can be worked with, but what is left in the shadow controls her silently. When a woman suppresses her shadow, she may believe she is strong, but strength built on suppression is fragile. It breaks easily under pressure. True strength is built on integration, on accepting even the dark parts of herself, the restless parts, the longing parts. When she accepts her shadow, it no longer controls her from beneath. It becomes part of her wholeness, part of her humanity. The shadow also teaches compassion. When she sees her own restlessness, her own irritations, her own sadness, she begins to understand that others carry shadows too. This understanding softens her, makes her more patient, more forgiving. In facing her own darkness, she learns how to hold the darkness of others without fear. This is one of the greatest gifts of shadow work, the transformation of personal pain into shared empathy. Still, there is danger if the shadow is left unchecked. Unconscious shadows can grow powerful. They can lead to destructive relationships, to addictions, to patterns of self-sabotage. A woman who does not face her shadow may unconsciously seek partners or experiences that mirror her hidden wounds. She may find herself repeating cycles of disappointment, not realizing that it is her shadow leading her there, seeking recognition in the outer world because it has been ignored within. But if she learns to turn inward, if she learns to sit with her shadow, to breathe with it, to listen without fear, then the shadow becomes a teacher instead of a tyrant. It teaches her where she is incomplete, where she is out of balance, where she must grow. It shows her the hidden parts of herself that are waiting to be integrated. And in this integration, she becomes whole. So when a woman lives without sex, the shadow emerges not to punish her, but to remind her. To remind her that energy cannot be silenced, that longing cannot be erased, that needs cannot be denied without consequence. The shadow rises to say, face me, acknowledge me, transform me. And when she does, the shadow loses its sharpness and becomes a source of wisdom, a reservoir of strength. The shadow is nothing more than the unexpressed self. To reject it is to reject part of her own being. To embrace it is to step into wholeness. And in that wholeness, she discovers that even in the absence of intimacy, even in the silence of touch, she carries within her everything she needs to transform darkness into light, pain into power, shadow into strength. Awareness is the key. Without awareness, all the energy, all the strength, all the shadow, all the silence will lead nowhere. Awareness is the bridge between what is happening inside and the life she wishes to create outside. When a woman lives without sex, many things move within her. Desire, frustration, emptiness, energy, creativity, sadness, strength. If she is unaware, all of this simply controls her in ways she does not understand. But the moment she becomes aware, the moment she can observe herself clearly, she begins to take back her power. Awareness is not thinking, it is not overanalyzing or constantly questioning herself. It is simply the ability to see what is happening without judgment. To notice, I feel restless today. To admit, there is tension in me. To acknowledge, I long for closeness. In these small acts of recognition, she is already freeing herself. Because what is seen clearly can be transformed. What is ignored grows silently in the shadows and eventually governs her life. Imagine a river. If you are aware of the river's flow, you can build a bridge, you can redirect it, you can use its power. But if you are unaware, the same river may flood you, drown you, sweep you away. Sexual energy is this river. It is powerful, persistent, alive. Awareness allows her to guide it, to use it with wisdom, to transform it into creativity, purpose, and connection. Unawareness leaves her lost, confused, carried by impulses she does not understand. Awareness is also the foundation of balance. When intimacy is absent, when a woman lives without sex, imbalance is natural. The body may crave touch, the heart may crave closeness, the mind may create fantasies. If she does not notice this, she may slip into habits that harm her. She may become restless without knowing why, angry without understanding, lonely without admitting it. But if she pauses, breathes, and looks inward, she sees the truth. This is longing. This is energy. This is natural. And in that awareness, there is already peace. Awareness does not erase desire. It does not pretend absence does not hurt. Instead, it transforms the relationship with absence. Instead of fighting against what is not there, she learns to observe it, to live with it, to grow through it. The pain of absence becomes less sharp because she is no longer unconscious. She is no longer a prisoner of her emotions. She becomes a witness to them. This witnessing changes everything. The woman who is aware of her shadow is not controlled by it. She may feel sadness, but she knows it is passing. She may feel irritation, but she sees it for what it is, trapped energy. She may feel numbness, but instead of fearing it, she recognizes it as a signal to reconnect with herself. Each time she observes instead of reacting blindly, she chooses growth over chaos. Awareness also deepens her connection to her body. The body is always speaking, through tension, through fatigue, through restlessness, through pleasure. Most people ignore these signals until they become unbearable. But the aware woman learns to listen. When her body tightens with unexpressed energy, she notices and chooses movement, dance, or breath. When her heart feels heavy with longing, she notices and chooses stillness or expression through creativity. She does not reject her body's messages, she honors them. And in honoring them, she creates harmony between body, mind, and spirit. Through awareness, solitude itself changes meaning. Without awareness, solitude feels like emptiness, a lack, a wound. With awareness, solitude becomes a teacher, a mirror. She begins to see herself more clearly because there are no distractions. She discovers how much of her restlessness is her own, not caused by others. She learns how to befriend her inner world. Solitude becomes less of a prison and more of a retreat, a place where she cultivates strength. Awareness is also the key to transformation. Desire without awareness becomes frustration. Desire with awareness becomes creativity. Anger without awareness becomes destruction. Anger with awareness becomes clarity and boundary. Sadness without awareness becomes depression. Sadness with awareness becomes compassion and depth. The difference is not the feeling itself, but whether she is awake to it or lost inside it. There is also freedom in awareness. Many women, in the absence of sex, feel pressure from society, from expectations, from inner voices that tell them something is missing or wrong. Awareness allows her to see those voices for what they are, not truths, but thoughts. She can observe them without believing them. She can say, yes, this voice tells me I am incomplete, but I see it. And because I see it, I am not controlled by it. In this freedom, she chooses her own path, not one imposed by fear or opinion. Awareness, however, is not achieved once and forever. It is a daily practice, a moment-to-moment discipline. Just as the breath must be taken again and again, awareness must be renewed. Every time she feels pulled into frustration, she can pause and ask, what am I really feeling right now? Every time she feels restless, she can breathe and observe, where in my body do I feel this energy? Each time she brings light to her experience, she weakens the hold of unconscious patterns. This practice builds resilience. Life will always bring change, times of closeness, times of solitude, times of fulfillment, times of longing. The woman who has cultivated awareness is not destroyed by these changes. She flows with them, learns from them, grows through them. Her strength is not in controlling life, but in meeting life with open eyes. This is the essence of awareness, the courage to see reality as it is, without denial, without fear. Awareness is the master key because it unlocks choice. Without it, she reacts blindly. With it, she responds consciously. Without it, she is tossed by waves. With it, she sails with direction. Awareness does not remove the storms, but it gives her the ability to steer. In absence, in longing, in silence, awareness allows her to turn what could have been suffering into a path of self-discovery and transformation. So when a woman lives without sex, awareness is not just important, it is essential. Without it, absence becomes a wound. With it, absence becomes a teacher. Without it, longing becomes torment. With it, longing becomes creative fire. Without it, shadow consumes her. With it, shadow guides her. Awareness is the difference between being lost in the dark and using the dark to find her way back to the light. And this is the final truth. Everything depends on how awake she is to her own experience. Awareness will not erase desire, but it will free her from being enslaved by it. Awareness will not fill the absence, but it will show her how to transform it. Awareness will not change the outer reality immediately, but it will change the way she walks through it. And that change, that clarity, that calm strength, this is what turns solitude into empowerment, shadow into wisdom, absence into awakening.